really funny. You look at that golden pothos hanging in your kitchen window, or maybe like the fiddly fig sitting in the corner of your living room, and it's so incredibly easy to just see, well, a green smudge.
Right, just a decoration.
Exactly. You water it, maybe dust its leaves if you're feeling ambitious, and you just think of it as completely passive. It's basically just background scenery for the theatrics of your own life.
I mean, it is the ultimate illusion of stillness, because plants are operating on a time scale that is completely different from our own.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, so our fast-moving brains just assume they aren't doing anything at all.
Yeah.
We inherently equate sudden movement with life and stillness with objects.
We really do. But today, we're doing a custom-tailored deep dive into the hidden world of plant intelligence. And we're drawing heavily from Zoë Schlanger's 2024 book, The Light Eaters.
Yeah, such a fantastic book.
It really is. And the mission of this deep dive is to completely shatter that illusion of stillness for you. Because that potted plant is not just sitting there. It is engaged in this relentless slow-motion hustle for survival.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to look at plants as dynamic, cunning problem solvers.
To really grasp this, we kind of have to start by reframing our whole perspective on how life actually solves problems. I mean, think about an octopus.
Okay, an octopus.
Marine biologists now widely accept that octopuses possess an immense, highly developed intelligence, right? They use tools, they figure out complex puzzles, they even taste their environment with their arms.
Which is wild.
It is. But their evolutionary path diverged from humans roughly 500 million years ago.
Yeah.
The last common ancestor we shared with an octopus was basically a microscopic flatworm wriggling on the ocean floor.
Wow, right, which proves that complex intelligence doesn't have to look like a human brain. It can evolve entirely independently using a completely different biological blueprint. So, here is the big question for you to ponder today. If an octopus can have this decentralized, completely alien form of cunning, is it possible that plants, which, by the way, make up 80% of all living matter on Earth, have developed their own, totally different form of consciousness?
It's a massive question. I mean, paradigm shifting. And what's truly incredible is that for decades, modern science was absolutely terrified to even ask it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand where botany is today, we really have to understand the trauma of the 1970s.
Oh, the 1970s.
Right. The reason scientists were so afraid to study plant behavior comes down to one of the most disastrous pop science sensations of the 20th century. In 1973, a book came out called The Secret Life of Plants.
It is genuinely hard to overstate the damage that book did to the field.
Oy!
Oh. It set plant research back by at least 30 years.
Because it was basically pure pseudoscience, but packaged with just enough scientific sounding jargon to be incredibly dangerous. The authors focused heavily on this guy, a former CIA polygraph expert named Cleve Baxter. And he literally hooked up lie detector machines to the leaves of his office houseplants.
Well, which is just, I mean, it's absurd.
It is. And he claimed that if he just stood there and imagined setting the plant on fire, the polygraph needle would jump wildly.
Wait, just imagined it.
Yeah. According to his interpretation, the plants were telepathically reading his malevolent thoughts.
Which demonstrates a complete misunderstanding of what a polygraph actually measures.
Right.
Because lie detectors measure galvanic skin response. It's basically how much human skin sweats when someone is nervous, which changes electrical conductance.
And plants don't sweat out of anxiety?
No, they don't. They transpire moisture based on temperature and light. But, Baxter's claims didn't stop there. The book claimed plants preferred Beethoven to rock music.
Oh, of course they did.
And that they could read human emotions across vast distances. It completely abandoned rigorous scientific methodology in favor of, well, mysticism.
But the thing is, the general public absolutely ate it up. It perfectly aligned with the 1970s New Age movement.
Oh, totally.
Suddenly, millions of people were having these deep heart-to-hearts with their ferns. Paramount Pictures made a documentary about it. Stevie Wonder even wrote an entire soundtrack for it.
I still can't believe that.
And the legend is they sent out the first pressings of the vinyl album heavily scented with floral perfume. I mean, it was a massive, unavoidable cultural phenomenon.
And a total professional nightmare for serious, working botanists.
I can imagine.
Because of all this New Age hype, the gatekeepers of science, the peer review boards and major funding institutions like the National Science Foundation, They completely slammed their door shut.
Wow, just cut them off.
Completely. Any grant proposal that even had the phrase plant behavior in it was mocked, marginalized, or flat out rejected.
It's like a cheesy sci-fi movie about alien abductions coming out, and it somehow completely ruins the credibility of actual rigorous astrophysicists.
That's a great comparison.
Suddenly, no one wants to fund your space telescope because they're afraid of being associated with people hunting for little green men. So, if the funding dried up and the topic was essentially blacklisted, how did we get to the current renaissance in botany?
Well, it took undeniable, hard technological proof to thaw that freeze.
Like what kind of tech?
So in the last 15 to 20 years, we gained access to advanced genetic sequencing, time-lapse photography, and these incredibly powerful chemical mass spectrometers.
Okay, so actual hard data.
Exactly. The data started pouring in, and researchers could finally measure plant responses on a molecular level. And what's fascinating here is that the actual peer-reviewed truth about plants turned out to be far weirder and far more complex than any of those telepathic myths from 1973.
Oh, give me an example.
Take the Azolla folliculoids, for example.
Oh, the Azolla, it's this tiny scalloped water fern, right? If you look at it closely, it's so vibrantly green, it almost looks like it's glowing from the inside.
Exactly. And biologically, it is an absolute powerhouse.
Oh.
Millions of years ago, the Earth's climate was significantly warmer, and this tiny fern formed a massive continent-sized blanket over the surface of the Arctic Ocean.
A continent-sized blanket of ferns.
Yes. And over a period of about 1 million years, that blanket of ferns absorbed so much atmospheric carbon dioxide that paleobotanists believe it actually triggered a global cooling event.
Wow, it essentially terraformed the Earth.
It really did.
And what I love is how it manages to be so prolific. It literally morphs its own cellular anatomy to create these specialized microscopic pockets. And inside those pockets, it houses a very specific strain of cyanobacteria.
Right, it's a mutual relationship.
Yeah, the fern synthesizes sugars to feed the bacteria, and in this perfect symbiotic exchange, the bacteria cracks open raw nitrogen molecules straight out of the air to feed the fern.
It's brilliant.
It's literally a built-in fertilizer factory. Chinese and Vietnamese farmers actually figured this mechanism out centuries ago and have been growing Azolla in their rice paddies to organically boost their crop yields.
That's its brilliance on a macro-ecological level. But when you look at ferns on a micro level, specifically their reproductive behavior, it reveals a level of cunning that is hard to wrap your head around.
Okay, how so?
When a fern starts its life, it doesn't look like the big leafy frond we recognize. It exists on the forest floor as a tiny single-cell thick lobe called a gamophyte. And to reproduce, they don't use airborne pollen. They use actual swimming sperm.
Swimming sperm for a plant.
Yes.
Which look like microscopic corkscrews under a lens, if I remember the source material correctly.
Exactly. And they're endurance athletes. They can swim in the incredibly thin film of water left by a raindrop on the forest floor.
Just a raindrop puddle.
Just a puddle. And they propel themselves for up to 60 minutes searching for female eggs. But this is where the survival of the fittest kicks in. Ferns don't just passively hope their sperm wins the race.
What do?
They actively emit specific hormones into that puddle of water.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yes, and those hormones are designed to bind to the chemical receptors of neighboring rival fern species.
Right. And when the rival sperm absorbs this hormone, it triggers a reaction that paralyzes them or drastically slows down their swimming motility.
That is insane. It's literally chemical sabotage.
It is.
By slowing down the competitors, the sabotaging fern ensures that fewer of the rival species can fertilize an egg. That means its own offspring get to hoard all the scarce resources in that patch of dirt, the water, the sunlight, the soil nutrients.
Which requires an incredible level of environmental awareness.
Yeah.
And we see this environmental sensing everywhere now. You mentioned earlier that plants aren't passive. Consider the pea plant.
The pea plant, okay.
Researchers have discovered that pea roots can literally hear the presence of water flowing inside sealed pipes.
Right, okay, but let me stop you there because that's the exact kind of word that trips people up. How does a root hear anything? I mean, it doesn't have tympanic membrane, it doesn't have ears.
Well, it comes down to mechanoreception.
Yeah.
Sound is fundamentally just a vibration, right?
Right, pressure waves.
Exactly. Pressure waves moving through a medium like dirt. Water flowing through a pipe emits a very specific acoustic signature. And the cells at the tip of the pea root contain mechanosensitive channels.
Okay, it's tracking.
When those microscopic pressure waves hit the root cells, it triggers a calcium ion cascade inside the plant. This chemical signal essentially tells the cells on one side of the root to elongate faster than the other side, physically bending the root to grow toward the source of the vibration.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because they aren't just sensing the physical environment, they are analyzing biology.
Yes, they are.
There are plants that can chemically recognize the root exudates, the chemical signatures of their own genetic siblings in the soil.
Which is incredible.
It is. If they sense a sibling nearby, they will actually alter their growth pattern, rearranging their leaves to avoid casting shade on their family member. But if it's a stranger, they aggressively try to shade them out.
The defensive mechanisms are even more sophisticated than that. Let's look at the tomato plant. When a caterpillar starts munching on a tomato leaf, the plant doesn't just passively take the damage. Its cell receptors actually bind with specific enzymes found in the caterpillar's saliva.
Wait, it's analyzing the saliva?
Yes. The plant analyzes that saliva, identifies the specific species of the attacker, and then synthesizes a custom volatile organic compound, a VOC.
And what does that custom chemical do?
It alters the leaf's chemistry so dramatically that it messes with the caterpillar's digestion and behavior. It makes the caterpillars so agitated and averse to the plant tissue that they actually turn away from the leaf and start cannibalizing each other.
Wait. So the plant is essentially identifying the predator and synthesizing a targeted, mind-altering substance to make its enemies eat each other.
That's exactly what it's doing.
It's like a decentralized mob boss ordering a hit.
It really is.
And it's not just tomatoes. Lima beans and tobacco plants will analyze insect saliva, synthesize a completely different distress beacon, and release it into the air to summon parasitic wasps.
The Wasp Alliance.
Right. The wasps act like a targeted drone strike. They hone in on the chemical signal, arrive at the plant, and lay their eggs inside the attacking bugs.
It is highly targeted, orchestrated chemical warfare.
But I'm struggling to reconcile this with basic anatomy. I mean, if they are analyzing saliva, synthesizing complex, volatile organic compounds, and directing growth based on acoustic vibrations, how are they doing all of this without a brain?
It's a great question.
Without a central nervous system processing these inputs? How can a decentralized anatomy where you can just snap off a leaf and it grows a new one possibly coordinate this?
Well, think about it from an evolutionary survival perspective. Having a central brain, or a heart, is actually a massive evolutionary liability if you are rooted to the ground and cannot run away from a threat.
Oh, because you can't escape.
Right. If a predator takes one bite of a central brain, you're instantly dead. So plants took a different route. By decentralizing their vital functions, putting their sensors, their chemical factories, and their signaling pathways in duplicate across their entire modular body, they become incredibly resilient.
That makes a lot of sense.
A deer can eat half a bush, and the bush still has all the hardware it needs to sense, process, and react. They survive precisely because they lack a vulnerable center.
That makes perfect sense. If you're a stationary target surrounded by millions of insects and herbivores that want to devour you, being chemically modular and totally redundant is your only hope.
Exactly.
But it makes me wonder about the metabolic cost. Synthesizing all of those toxic mint oils or stinging chemicals or caterpillar-altering VOCs has to take a massive amount of cellular energy.
It's very expensive, biologically speaking.
Right. So what happens to plants if they don't have to fight? What happens if a plant evolves in an absolute paradise where there are zero threats?
Then you get the fascinating and, frankly, tragic ecosystem of Kauai in Hawaii.
Kauai?
Yeah. Kauai is an island that formed over a volcanic hotspot millions of years ago, slowly drifting into the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Because it is incredibly isolated, over 2,000 miles from any major landmass, seeds very rarely made it there.
How rare?
Maybe once every 1,000 years, a seed would arrive via ocean currents or, tucked inside feathers of a migratory bird.
And when those rare pioneer seeds did take root, they underwent a process biologists call adaptive radiation.
Right.
They rapidly diversified and evolved into entirely new, unique species tailored specifically to the microclimates of this island. But Kauai was missing something major.
It had no large land mammals.
Exactly. No grazing reptiles, no herds of deer. In fact, the only native land mammal in all of Hawaii is a tiny insect-eating bat.
Which completely shifts the evolutionary math. I mean, if you are a plant on Kauai, why waste your precious metabolic energy creating complex chemical defenses or tough woody armor if nothing is trying to eat you?
You wouldn't.
Exactly. You are better off using that energy to grow taller or produce more seeds. So over millions of years, these plants simply dropped their weapons. They became what scientists literally call naive.
Naive plants.
Yeah. Mints that arrived on the island eventually lost their minty oils, which are normally used as insect repellents. Stinging nettles completely lost their sting. Raspberries lost their thorns.
They optimized for a peaceful world.
They did.
But the tragedy is that the world didn't stay peaceful. Once human travel introduced invasive species to Hawaii, feral pigs, goats, aggressive weeds, these naive native plants were totally defenseless. They are currently losing the ecological war.
It's devastating.
It is. And that brings us to a botanist named Steve Pearlman. He's 69 years old, works for Hawaii's Plant Extinction Prevention Program, and he basically spends his entire life trying to save these naive plants from disappearing. The source material notes that he literally writes poetry to cope with the immense grief of watching them go extinct.
It's a profound, heavy grief. Pearlman understands that when a wild, endemic plant dies out, we aren't just losing a pretty flower.
No, it's much bigger than that.
We are losing a genetic experiment that took millions of years of isolated research and development to perfect. That unique biological solution to the problem of life is just, it's gone forever.
His dedication is unbelievable, too. He physically rappels down 4,000-foot cliffs on the Napali coast just to reach a cluster of 5 endangered plants clinging to the rock face.
4,000 feet.
Yeah. There's one specific plant he works with called the Vulcan palm. It's affectionately nicknamed cabbage on a stick because of how it looks.
It really does look like that.
Over millennia, it evolved to be pollinated by just one specific insect, the fabulous green sphinx moth. But because of invasive predators, that moth is functionally gone.
So how does it reproduce?
Well, Pearlman hangs off a sheer cliffside, pulls out a tiny cosmetic brush belonging to his wife, and painstakingly hand-pollinates the last surviving cabbages on a stick himself.
It's a beautiful, desperate act of preservation. But it also highlights a massive disparity in how human beings value life.
It really does, because if you think about it, if there were only 5 giant pandas left on Earth, there would be telethons.
Oh, yeah.
There would be global UN summits, endless funding, documentaries. But because it's a cabbage on a stick, the general public barely knows it exists. Why is it that we can so easily empathize with an animal, but we just look right past a plant fighting for its life?
Botanists actually have a term for this psychological gap. It's called plant blindness.
Plant blindness.
Yes. It's our innate human tendency to see the green world merely as a static backdrop for animal life.
Yeah.
But it's not just a harmless oversight, it is a deeply ingrained cultural bias. And right now, this exact bias is at the center of a fierce debate in the scientific community about how we define the words intelligence and consciousness.
Right, because there was a famous, highly controversial paper published recently in the journal Trends in Plant Science.
I remember that paper.
The authors, who were highly credentialed, serious researchers, argued forcefully that plants cannot possibly be conscious. They stated that applying words like intelligence or learning to plants is a dangerous anthropomorphism.
Yeah, that was their main point.
Their core argument was that because plants don't possess human-like anatomical structures, like a cerebral cortex, their complex behaviors must just be innate, hardwired genetic programming. A chemical reflex, nothing more.
To understand why that argument holds so much weight in the scientific community, we really have to look at the historical roots of Western philosophy. This bias goes all the way back to Aristotle. He created a concept called the scala naturae, the ladder of life. He placed humans at the very top of this hierarchy, and he placed plants at the absolute bottom, arguing they possessed no sensation or inner life and existed solely for the use of man.
Wow. And centuries later, René Descartes came along and doubled down on that hierarchy.
He did.
He viewed all non-human life, even animals, as mere mechanical automata. He basically argued they were just meat machines operating on blind reflex, entirely devoid of an inner experience.
Exactly. But it's crucial to remember there was an alternative path Western science could have taken. Aristotle had a standout student named Theophrastus.
Theophrastus?
Right. Unlike his teacher, Theophrastus studied plants directly, observing their behaviors rather than just categorizing their usefulness to humans. He wrote about plants having autonomy and distinct desires.
That's a totally different approach.
It is. He even described agriculture not as domination, but as a collaborative relationship. A trade-off where a plant accepts a shorter lifespan in exchange for a human providing it with protected, nutrient-rich soil.
It completely flips the hierarchy, and we see this collaborative worldview thriving outside of Western philosophy, too.
We definitely do.
The writer Mary Sisop Genius explains the Anishinaabe perspective. It's an indigenous framework where plants are considered the second brothers of creation, right after the elemental forces of the earth.
Oh, I love that concept.
Yeah, humans in this view are the youngest brothers. We are viewed as the weakest, most pitiable creatures, wholly dependent on the plants to survive. The Canela people in Brazil take kinship so seriously, they literally include certain plants in their family trees, naming them as sons and daughters.
Those cultures recognize an intricate web of interdependence, whereas the European historical view is fixated on detachment, mechanical reductionism, and superiority.
So what does this all mean? Which leads to a really painful irony in our modern language. Today, we use the word vegetable as a crude medical insult to describe someone who is brain dead and devoid of consciousness.
Yeah, it's a terrible insult.
But if you look at the Latin root of that word, vegetar, it literally translates to animate or to enliven. To be vegetative originally meant to be vibrantly, actively alive.
This raises an important question, which brings us right back to the debate over the word intelligence. Using the human brain as the sole benchmark for cognition is, frankly, an exercise in circular reasoning.
Circular reasoning, how so?
Well, think about the behaviors we've discussed today. If a plant can identify its kin in the soil, if it can analyze insect saliva, synthesize custom chemical weapons, and coordinate defense strategies across vast distances using airborne signals, why should we limit the definition of intelligence just because their evolutionary hardware relies on calcium waves instead of a cerebral cortex?
That's a really good point.
When we say it's just a chemical reflex, we have to ask ourselves, is the human brain ultimately anything more than an incredibly complex series of chemical and electrical reflexes?
Right.
We are basically saying they aren't intelligent because they aren't built like us.
Which is incredibly arrogant, especially when you step back and realize how profoundly dependent us is on them. If we can finally drop our plant blindness and accept that they have this brilliant alien form of life, we have to face the biological reality that we are inescapably bound to them.
Unquestionably.
Every single thing a human being does is powered by their labor.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the story really begins 1.5 billion years ago.
Okay, take us back.
Afloat in the primordial, Precambrian waters, an ancient alga-like cell swallowed a cyanobacteria but didn't digest it.
Oh, just kept it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That union created a chimera, a single organism composed of two genetically distinct entities that could do the impossible. It could eat light.
Photosynthesis, the ultimate biological alchemy.
Yes.
A plant takes completely dead, inorganic materials, water from the soil, carbon dioxide from the air, and photons that have traveled 93 million miles from the sun. It uses the solar energy to literally crack the water molecule apart, combining the hydrogen with the carbon dioxide to manufacture glucose and exhaling oxygen as a waste product.
And that manufactured glucose is the foundation of you.
Right.
Every single animal organ is built using plant sugar as the base material,
Even the brain.
especially the brain. Your complex human brain, the very thing we use to claim superiority over plants, is a machine that runs almost exclusively on glucose. Every thought you have, every memory you form, every word you speak is physically powered by the solar energy that a plant trapped and converted for you.
So when you eat a piece of bread or bite into an apple, you aren't just eating food. You are essentially downloading raw solar power from a plant's biological battery pack.
That is exactly what you're doing.
It means we are in a constant, literal, physical conversation with the plant world. Every time you take a breath of oxygen or formulate a thought using glucose, a plant made that possible.
Absolutely. We inhale their exhales. Our bones and neurons are constructed out of recycled plant material. Plants don't just decorate our world, they physically built the cosmos we inhabit, and they actively sustain it second by second.
It is totally mind-bending. Just looking back at the journey we've taken today, we've gone from the shaggy, dripping canopy of the Hoh rainforest to the mist-covered, isolated cliffs of Kauai.
It's been a wild ride.
We've seen ferns emitting hormones to chemically sabotage their rivals, tomatoes synthesizing bespoke toxins to orchestrate hits on caterpillars, and ancient microscopic chimeras inventing the very air we breathe. We really have to stop seeing plants as passive settlers.
We really do.
They are aggressive competitors, sophisticated chemical masterminds, and the literal foundation of human consciousness.
And it leaves us with something profound to consider as we wrap up.
What's that?
Well, the source material points out that it took Western science centuries to move past Descartes' animal-machine theory. It took us hundreds of years to finally, officially accept that a dog could feel pain or possess consciousness and a unique personality.
Right?
We're only just now finally starting to wake up to the vast hidden intelligence of the plant kingdom. So if our biases kept us blind to this massive reality for so long, what other invisible kingdoms are we entirely ignoring right now?
Oh, wow.
What unbelievably complex social lives or forms of communication are bacteria or fungi engaging in right under our feet that we simply haven't learned how to measure yet?
It makes you question everything you walk past. Every patch of dirt suddenly looks like a bustling metropolis. So, here is our final call to you. Later today, take a hard look at the potted plant sitting on your kitchen counter or the dandelion bursting through the crack in the sidewalk pavement on your way to work.
Yeah, really look at it.
Remember that it isn't just sitting there surviving. It is a brilliant, alien organism. It is eating light. It is actively sensing the world around it. And maybe, in its own entirely chemical way, it is sensing you.